For most applicants, the standard document file covers everything that is required. But for a significant minority, those who have a previous connection to Israel, whether through prior residence, prior citizenship, an Israeli parent, or a previous Aliyah, there are additional documents and a somewhat different process. Let me work through the main categories. If you were born to an Israeli parent, you are considered an Israeli citizen from birth, regardless of whether you were born in Israel, regardless of whether you have ever lived there, and regardless of whether you currently have an Israeli passport. The law of return does not actually apply to you in the standard way. Because you are not making Aliyah, you are returning to a country of which you are already a citizen. Your process runs through Mizrad Hapnim, rather than through the standard Aliyah channels, and you will need to obtain an Israeli passport rather than a Tudat Oleh. Contact the Jewish agency to be directed to the correct process. If you previously made Aliyah and then left Israel, making Aliyah again is possible, though it is subject to specific rules, and your previous Aliyah status and the length of your absence from Israel will affect your entitlements. The documents required include your previous Tudat Oleh if you have it, documentation of your departure and absence, and the standard civil documents for your current situation, including any marital status changes that occurred since you were last resident in Israel. Discuss your specific situation with the Jewish agency before beginning to gather documents. If you previously lived in Israel on an A1 temporary resident visa, you are what is called a Toshav Choser, a returning resident, rather than an Ole Chadash. Your benefits package and your document requirements differ from those of a new immigrant. A specific conversation with the Jewish agency is necessary before you begin gathering documents. If you have previously visited Israel extensively or lived there on a tourist visa, you will be asked to provide an entries and exits record for the 7 years prior to your anticipated Aliyah date. This is a list of every time you entered and left Israel during that period. The Jewish agency uses this to confirm, among other things, that you have not been living in Israel for a prolonged period while on tourist status in a way that would affect your eligibility or benefit entitlements. If you have never been to Israel or have not visited in the 7 years prior to your Aliyah, you still need to submit this form with a note explaining that there are no entries to record. If your marital status has changed since you last held Israeli status of any kind, the marriage certificate, divorce decree, or death certificate documenting that change must be apostilled and included in your file. This applies even if the change happened while you were living in another country and the Israeli authorities have no record of it. The general principle is any complexity in your history with Israel creates additional documentary requirements. Disclose your history to your account manager accurately and early. Do not hope that something will not be noticed. The population authority has records, and discrepancies between what you declare and what is on file cause far more delay and difficulty than transparent disclosure at the outset.